Hello guys, welcome to the Apple Company PowerPoint tutorial. So in this tutorial, I will show you how to create a presentation like this. Firstly, we're gonna learn how to make the intro slide and then move forward. So let's get right into it. So for the start, what we have to do is get the color we need. I will also attach the files to the lesson. So these are two colors and we have two logos. One is white, one is gray. So what we have to do now is insert a new slide. So let's click here. Now we got to remove everything from it, just like this. And we have to start by inserting our first shape. It's the gray Apple logo. Make sure it's in the middle, just like this. What we have to do next is insert four circles. So let's go to shapes and let's insert our first circle. It's got to be about this big. Make sure it's in the middle. Remove the fill and let's add a bit of outline. I chose this color, the darker one, purple. Now we have to insert a second one. So let's go right here and let's insert a bit bigger one. Also do the same. Now let's go here again. I'll insert even bigger one, just like this. Don't forget to hold Control when inserting shapes, so they will be in correct sizes. And let's insert the last one. It's got to be the biggest one. Now let's do the same. So once we have all of these, we can duplicate a slide. And in the second slide, we have to correct them all. So starting off with the biggest one. So what we have to do is right click, go to Format Shape, and here we can find the color and the fill. So the fill is no fill, and the line's got to be a gradient line. So let's click on gradient, and let's remove these two. We don't need them. So the first one is got to be the dark one. So let's move it a bit here, and let's select a color, dark purple. And we have to choose the type radial, and also it has to be from the center, just like this. The width of the first one has to be 120, so let's enter it. Perfect. So now let's make it bigger because it has to be in the corners and of course in the middle, just like this. Now let's move on to the second one. Also stretch it a bit because it has to be bigger on the second slide also. So keep it on the first slide the same. And now let's enter the width of it. It's gotta be a 75. And it has to be a gradient line. But for now, let's also remove these two. And now I have to pick a lighter color. So to pick a lighter, move these two close in the middle and also choose a radial and from the center. Now this one has to be white, but the other one has to be a light purple, just like this. So make sure everything is okay. And that's about it. Make sure it's in the middle. Now let's move on to the third circle. So let's stretch it out a bit. Make sure it's in the middle. And this one's gotta be 50. So also let's choose a gradient line, just like in the previous one, and select the radial and select it from the center. Now we'll remove these two, move it a bit, and choose a dark purple color. Now it's also done. We have to move to the last one, and this one's gotta be a bit different from all of these because we will choose a line option. So let's stretch it, maybe a little bit less. So this time it's gotta be linear. Let's remove these two, we don't need them. Let's move them close in the middle. And this one's gotta be the darker one, and this one's gotta be the lighter purple one. So make sure they are about in the middle. And the width of this is gonna be 6.5, so just like this, 6.5. And the dash type is gotta be this one. So let's just select long dash dot. Perfect, just like this. Maybe let's make it a bit smaller. Now we have to remove this old logo and let's insert the white one in the middle. So now we have to change the background color. So right click, format background, and choose a dark fill. Now we can make the logo a bit bigger and also place it in the middle. It should be good. The last step will be go back, select everything, deselect this apple shape, and go to shape format, shape outline, and remove the outline. Now if we go back, we have to rotate this shape, just like this. And let's apply a morph transition. So let's go to transitions and apply a morph. So now let's look at the results. So this is our first slide with the gray apple logo, and once we click on it, we can see the school effect starting. So this is our intro slide done. Now let's move to the second part. So now let's move on to the third slide. So what we have to do is duplicate this slide. So right click and duplicate the slide. So in the second slide, let's stretch these circles. So let's zoom out a bit and let's stretch them so they will be out of the screen. And let's stretch these two for sure. And we also don't need these. And we don't need that. So once it's done, click on the Apple logo, go to picture format, go to colors, go to more variants and pick the darker one. Now let's make the background white again. So right click, format background and pick a white fill. Perfect. Now let's zoom in a bit. What we have to do now is place the Apple logo on the left side, just a little bit smaller. And now we can move the face in here. So it's gotta be somewhere here. And then we have to write a name. So instead of writing, I will just copy it because it's very easy. You just have to type the text. It's nothing hard. And let's make it a bit centered in the center, just like this. Now we have to add the two circles. So to add the first circle, let's zoom out a bit. Now let's go to insert, insert a circle, just like this. It has to be on half of the slide, so probably like that. Now right click, go to format shape, and let's select no fill. And also let's select an outline, so let's go with the gradient line. We will keep it a linear. What we have to do now is remove these two, move it a bit, maybe right here, and let's select a brighter color for it. Now what we have to do is make the width 60. Now we have to choose a direction. It's gonna be from the left, and make sure the width is 60. And now move it probably right here. So now let's send it to back. So right click, send to back, and now it's under it. So now let's insert a second circle. Let's go to insert, and it has to cover the face a bit. So just like this. Now let's remove the fill. Let's choose a solid line and let's choose the lighter one. Now what we have to do is make the width 40. And we have to make the transparency almost 80. So let's do like 80. And it has to cover a face a bit. So just like this. Just like this. And lastly, we have to insert a small line. Let's just copy it because there's no need to do it again and send it to back. So this is how it should look like. So once we go back, you can see I have already copied these, but if you don't have, what you have to do is I will just remove them. So let's remove them and go back to this slide. Select this face, select this line and select that line. Now let's click Ctrl C to copy it. Let's go back to this slide and let's paste it. So Ctrl V. We have pasted it. Now let's move it to side. So face has to be somewhere here. These lines can be over here. And what's left is to apply a morph transition. So it's already applied. And now let's try it out. So this is how it should look like so far. So now let's make the fourth slide. So what we have to do is duplicate this slide. So let's click on it and duplicate the slide. Now we don't need anything here, so let's just delete everything. And now what we have to do is insert these phones. You can copy it from the presentation file, the original one. And what we have to do next is write a text. So I will just also copy it because it's just text. And now we have to insert a big rectangle. So let's click on rectangle. Let's insert it. Has to be about this size. Now we have to rotate it a bit. So just like this. And now let's move it somewhere here. Now let's right click, send to back. And once it's done, we can move on by selecting a fill for it. So let's go with a gradient fill. And what we have to do is remove the line. So the gradient fill has already applied, but what you have to do is make this one dark purple and this one light purple. Super easy, and it's already done. So once you have done this, now we have to insert a small circle. So let's go to insert, let's find a circle, and let's insert on top of these phones. So probably just right here. And let's remove the fill and select a solid line. Let's choose this color and let's make the width 40. So then we have to make the transparency 84. Let's stretch it a bit, just like this. And let's make it a little bit smaller. And now we have to send it to back. So once you have done this, now we have to copy this material into the third slide. So let's copy the phones. We have to move it a bit down. And now I have to copy the text. So let's select the text. Let's copy it here. Let's move it aside, just like this. And then we have to copy our rectangle. So let's also copy it. Let's move it a bit. And let's also paste it in the third slide and just make sure it stays like this and right here. So once you have done this, lastly, you have to apply a morph transition. And now let's look at the results. This is how it should look like right now. So now let's make the fifth slide. So for this slide, let's also duplicate this slide. And once we have duplicated it, we can move this shape right here and place it in the middle. Now we don't need those phones anymore. We don't need this text. And we also don't need this shape. So once you have done this, you need to send it to back. So once you have done this, we have to insert a video. So you can just copy it from the main file, or you can make the video yourself. Doesn't really matter. Once you have inserted the video, you can copy the text. It's actually very simple. I will not show how to grade that text because it's just text. And now let's insert two circles. So let's go to insert, select one. This one has to be pretty big. It has to cover the text just like this, probably right here. And we have to even make a smaller one. And the smaller one will be right here. So both of these has to be with the black fill. So let's go to format shape. Let's select a solid fill and let's make it black, and also do this on the smaller circle. Let's go back to the bigger circle. And now we have to choose a line. So let's make a gradient line. Let's keep the linear. Let's remove these two. And what we have to do now is move this one to the middle and pick a light purple color. Now the thickness has to be a 40, so let's go with 40. And we have to do the same on the other one. So let's go here. Let's select the same color. It's got to be gradient. Let's select the same color, but also keep this one the same. And let's make the width 40. But also you have to bring the text to front. So let's select everything and bring it to front. Now once we move this shape over, you can see that the text is visible and this one is not. So let's move it to front. And now everything should look like this. So you can fix the positions if you'd like to, but I will just keep it like this. And when we click on the video, make sure you click on the playback right here. And it has to be set up automatically and loop until stopped. So now let's look at the results again. But to spice things up, we can also copy these two and paste them in the fifth slide. Also make them smaller, just like this, and place them probably right here. So now let's look at the results again. You can see they also appear from the bottom. So guys, now let's make the seventh slide. What we have to do is insert a new slide, or just let's duplicate this one. And now let's zoom out a bit. And what we have to do is make these two smaller. So just like this, drag them and place them somewhere here. So now we have to remove everything because we don't need it. And let's select all and press back. Now what we have to do is insert a picture of the phones. So I will just copy it. Now we have it in the middle. And next what we have to do is insert a text in the middle. So it's easy as that. Now we have our text. And what's left is to insert a big rectangle. So to insert the rectangle, let's go to Insert, Shapes, and select it. Now we can make this a little bit bigger. It has to be somewhere here. Now what we have to do is right-click, go to Format Shape, then let's go to Fill, and let's select a gradient fill. So the fill is already applied, but we have to make the transparency 28. If it's not, just make it. And let's send it to back. So once you have it in back, now we have to insert a circle. Let's pick ourselves a circle about this big. We can stretch it a bit, just like this. And now let's remove the fill. Let's select line. Let's select the solid line. Now let's pick this color. And now let's make width 10 with transparency 87. And we have to change the dash type. So let's pick this one. It's perfect, has to stay about here. Well, maybe we can lighten the color a bit. So let's make it light so it will be more visible. Yeah, just like that. Make sure it's more visible. And once you have done this, let's copy these phones. Let's copy this and let's copy that into previous slide. So the phones goes down, this one goes up, and the circle also goes up. Let's select it real quick. It also goes up, but one thing to do is to rotate it here so it will create some nice effect. So let's rotate it. And once we've done this, go to transitions and apply a morph transition. So now let's see what we came up with. Perfect. So now let's make the eighth slide. What we have to do is duplicate this one. Now what we have to do is move the phones to the right side, just like this. And what we have to do next is insert a white circle. So let's insert it. It has to be somewhere here. Make sure it's in the middle. about this size. And now let's choose a white fill for it. So it's no line, a white fill. And the transparency has to be almost 75, I think. Let's go with 75. So now we gotta change the text. Let's type iPhone 15. And let's move it up. Now let's copy a picture of the phone, just right here. Make sure it's in the middle. And what we have to do is go to the previous slide and also copy this phone here. So let's select the phone. Let's go to previous slide. Let's copy it. Let's make it a bit smaller and move it to the left side. And we also have to copy that white circle. So now let's move it right here and let's also make it smaller and place it somewhere near the phone. So once we apply a morph transition, it should work just fine. So let's take a look. Perfect, but the phone has to be a little bit bigger and the phone on the previous side has to be a little bit smaller. So now let's try again. Now you can really see the transition. Now let's move to the second slide. So now just duplicate it. And what happens next is you have to take this phone and make it even bigger. So just like that. And also move the text to the top, almost on that circle. So it should look something like this. And let's also copy the text from the original presentation because just not waste the time. So let's copy the text. It's just a simple line with the text on top. And now let's copy the text on the previous slide too. So it's just a little bit hard to click on these things, but I will zoom in and what you have to do next is just move them to the side. So just like this. So they will come from the sides. Just repeat this on the other side as well. And let's just move them. So once we apply a morph transition, everything should work just fine. Let's take a look. Perfect. So now let's make the last slide. What we have to do now is duplicate this slide and let's move it right here. So it will be the last one. Now we gotta change the text. So let's write MacBook Pro 13 and we have to change the picture. So this one has to be smaller and it will go right here. We also don't need these, so let's just remove them. And what we have to do next is add a MacBook photo, just like this. And now we need to duplicate the slide again. And lastly, we have to copy that text just right here. Now once the text is copied, we have to make the text higher, just right here. And we have to make the photo a little bit bigger. So just right here. That's perfect. Now let's copy this text. In the previous slide, we have to move it a bit to side. So now let's move one text to the one side, the other text to the other side, just like this. Select everything and let's move it. And now do this on the right side as well. And you're done. So let's apply morph transition to all of these slides and let's look at the end result. I hope you learned something, and one last thing before I go, I will show you how to get a photo like this, so maybe some people don't know. So what you have to do is go to Google, tap MacBook PNG, and let's find a good looking picture. So for example, you like this picture, what you have to do is just copy it, and let's go back to PowerPoint. Now we can insert the picture. It's already PNG without the background, but if you have a picture that has a background, so for example just a MacBook picture, now let's select this one. All we have to do is copy it. Let's go back, let's paste it, and you see there's a white background, so all you have to do is click on picture format and remove background. Keep changes, just like that you have a free MacBook photo. So thank you guys for watching, I hope you learned something, and I will see you in the next video.